Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is your special guest host, me, of course, Dr. Lori Shanderson, and I'm actually the host of EdUp Accreditation. And I'm taking some time off today to speak to a very wonderful guest that we have here today. And our guest today is Michelle Sobel, and she is the president of Unify America. So thank you for joining us, Michelle.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So I'll tell you why I'm so excited to speak to you for one reason. I'm like fan crushing over here because, in reading your bio, I see that you were, here it is right here, you were a part of Jellyvision creative team, and you helped launch the first You Don't Know Jack game.
Do you remember that game?
So we still play it. We still play versions of it, and I know it's been added to the portfolio of the Jackbox games. And we
That's
have
right.
Friday nights playing Jackbox games. So, when I saw your bio, I called my brother, and he was like, "What?" He was so excited.
Well, so the founder of Unify America is the founder of Jellyvision and subsequently Jackbox Games. So he came from that world and created all that entertaining, enjoyment experiences, and brought all those skills and talents to this solutions that we're trying to work on right now for the issues around toxic polarization.
Yeah, your journey is very unique to me. And you spent 20 years improving patient experience with digital health solutions, and you co-founded Emmy Solutions and Analyte Health. How did you do that? Like, what was your role? I mean, not your role, but what was the actual thing that you did relative to health solutions?
Yeah. So my career, as we live long enough, we have what I call a squiggly path. And so mine has been a squiggly path. My husband, at the time I was working at Jellyvision, working on You Don't Know Jack, my husband was starting medical school. And he said to me, the process of informed consent is broken. There's got to be a better way for patients to really understand what to expect before, during, and after having a medical procedure. And he said, you know how to, create experiences that are engaging and help people understand complex things and make them simple. So can you help me figure this out? And we started this company called Emmy Solutions. So I spent years working in the field of patient engagement, patient experience. And what I've learned from that, I've brought to civic engagement. So I would say it's been the through line is, how do I make something complex simple? How do I make something engaging? How do we learn from experiences? And so those are the skills and talents that we bring to this problem set.
I like that approach. I mean, to me, it's more about simplifying it for the consumer. They have to be educated so they can make informed decisions. And you know, relative to making informed consent and those types of decisions, I had a situation where my sister had been given a few options, and we couldn't make out any of the different things that she was being told. It was just so convoluted, and it was just very difficult. So I appreciate your work in that area.
Yeah, we used to say it takes 4 years of medical school and 3 years of law school to write a really confusing consent form.
Well, Michelle, we talk about the squiggly path from Hollywood film editing, digital health solutions, and now leading Unify America. Can you share with us, and this is a very loaded question, so take your time with it, how each of those experiences shaped your current approach to fostering unity and collaboration? And also, what motivated you to transition from improving patient experiences to digital health solutions, addressing the polarization and civic engagement?
Well, I'm like many of us in this country, have struggled with political division. We have it sometimes in our own families. We have it in our communities, sometimes in our workplaces. And I think that it's always been around, but it has gotten very acute for all of us in the last 4, 8 years. And so I was feeling very pessimistic, and hopeless, dark. And I think I was probably contributing to the problem myself when Harry Gottlieb called me in January of 2020 and said, "Hey, what are you up to? Because I have this idea, and I think we ought to work on bringing a little bit more hope." And he took a road trip I'm talking about Harry because he really had this impetus, and he brought
Harry
me out of the
Bell is
darkness.
the founder of
He's the
Unity.
founder. He's the founder. And he and I have worked together for years. I mean, we've known each other since we were 18. And he called me and said, I just took a road trip in 2019 that was transformative for me. I drove around the country for a few months just because I was in an echo chamber in Evanston, Illinois, a blue bubble. And I thought, we're all talking about political division and everything's getting very toxic, but I need to just see for myself, because I think we are probably have much more common ground and much more unity than the media and others who we now call conflict entrepreneurs or would leave us to believe. So he did what we all don't have time to do, but he did. He had just gotten his Honda Odyssey and he went on an Odyssey, and he traveled all over parts of the country that he hadn't spent a lot of time in, primarily the southeast of our country. And he met hundreds of people, and he started to put together a survey that was designed around high level goals for the country. And at the time, there were maybe 50 issues that they were covering. And as he met somebody who would have a conversation and learn about them and get to know them and say, hey, would you mind taking the survey? Because I think that when it comes to healthcare and immigration and the economy and maybe on some high level, we all agree about things. It gets tricky when we get to the how we solve it, but let's just start at the goals. And so he had this idea, and that he came back from that trip and he said, how can we give everybody this experience? Not everybody can jump in their car and do this. And amazingly, in March of 2020, I think we all know what happened in March of 2020. We had coronavirus, COVID, locked it down. We all learned how to do what we're doing right now, Zoom. And so we said, great, we can bring people together through this technology. And so that we started to do that and started to hone this survey and this concept that became this conversation guide. And I started to feel more hopeful because I watched people face to face having conversations across geographic and ideological and all kinds of differences, meet each other, like each other, get to know each other as people. And then they started to see something interesting. People are more complicated than we imagine they are. They hold lots of different contrasting points of view. And when you're in a one-on-one situation, you're open and you're curious to new perspectives in a way that you aren't when you're in your tribes or you're on social media. And so we started to see this phenomenon, and we thought, well, how can we do this faster and reach more people? And it became this program that we call the Unify Challenge College Bowl. And it really took off in higher ed. But I'm going to stop there because I know that you have other questions.
Yeah, I mean, the approach, right? And going out and having this odyssey, first of all, I would be nervous to think I could just drive any place in this country and be safe all the time. But to have the courage to do that and to engage different people to, get their perspective on things. I mean, I just imagine how challenging that is. You're making it sound like it's very easy, but I see all the time on social media how committed people are to their perspectives.
Mm.
And even if they are shown facts or they're provided with facts, they still like latch on to what their beliefs are. How were you all able to navigate that to get people to participate in a way that they shared their honest perspective on a topic?
Well, you actually, the goal isn't to persuade somebody.
Right.
The goal is to really, as Governor Spencer Cox of Utah has an initiative called Disagree Better. How do we learn how to disagree better? It's okay to disagree. And I'd like to hear you out. And so the one instruction we give students when they're engaging in this program is stay curious. Stay curious. I'm not going to go in there and say, okay, I've got a list of facts and I'm gonna persuade the heck out of you. That's not the goal. The goal is to say, I feel a certain way. And then we actually encourage students to do perspective taking, where, if you would say something to me about how you feel about a certain issue, I'll say, well, Dr. Shanderson, I think this is what I heard you say. Did I get that right? Teaching those kind of skills and habits, it's another way, we're in this rut right now of our tribes and our, set of facts, and everyone has their own set of facts, and we're just shouting past one another. And it's really weakening the country. And
So
exhausting us.
I mean, I see your point now. Because the facts and the gotchas and the you're wrong about this, we are not focused on what we need to, and we're not having productive conversations. And we're not unifying based on the common things that we feel are issues for us as citizens. So, I mean,
That's
I'm
right.
so glad that well, tell me a little bit more about the College Bowl, because you connected over 10,000 students so that they can have respectful conversations. What are some of the College Bowl's most successful outcomes or success stories?
Yeah, well, I'll just explain how it works really briefly because it's there are many organizations in this country that are doing what's called bridge building work. You may have heard of Braver Angels, and we are sort of standing on the shoulders of many who have done this work, Living Room Conversations and others. We particularly love higher ed for several reasons. We have to equip young people with the skills and norms and habits and practices that we need to live in a pluralistic society. So the younger generation must be equipped, and college presidents are uniquely qualified to commit to doing this work. And so the way that this works is we partner with colleges, particularly faculty, and the program is assigned to students across disciplines. So these might be nursing students from North Dakota who would be in a one-on-one conversation with a student who's studying aviation in Florida. And so they're not raising their hand to do this. They're being assigned. It is a requirement. And so they're not volunteering, they're voluntolding. And I think that's really key. It's key because we have to provide an on-ramp for students who are not typically engaged. They are probably not protesting right now on campus. They may not be joining bridge building clubs or on-campus debates, which are wonderful things. But there are so many students that don't raise their hand to do that. And so they're being voluntold by requiring this as an assignment. And so the way it works is we offer this event. It's intercollegiate, it's large scale. We use technology to do it because it lets us connect people across geography and it lets us scale really fast. So students will show up. We do it in the spring, summer, and fall, 2 weeks at a time, multiple time slots throughout the day. Thousands of students show up. We go through a registration process where they tell us a little bit about themselves. And then we, through our algorithm, pair them into one-on-one conversations across geographic and ideological difference. And so you get popped into a room. It's like Zoom, but it's our own platform where you also see a conversation guide, a written guide. It's in the form of the survey. And they start with an icebreaker and they get to know each other. And one of the questions is, who would be proud of you for doing this work today?
Michelle,
That kind of question.
it's embedded into the platform, so
They're
they'll
embedded. They're embedded. So
use, or will it just randomly give them the
they each have the way it looks, and it's hard to see it on a podcast, but imagine Zoom, and then on the right side, there's a column of text, and they each have it, and they click it through it together, and they answer questions. So we're collecting data along the way as well. And I'll tell you a little bit about the outcomes, but so how it works is they have this one-on-one conversation. It covers 16 different topics, including tough ones, mental health, abortion, guns, immigration, the economy, free speech on campus, really tough questions. And we provoke with these questions. We ask them how much they will agree and disagree with some of the statements. And then we actually start to probe if they would like to share personal experiences with one another. We have scenarios and we have other prompts. So by the end, it takes about an hour. We don't turn off the lights. Students sometimes stay on for 3 hours with each other. They have really gotten into it.
That's
And the impact is extraordinary. I mean, you asked about the results. And so and just so you know who shows up. So these are students from public and private four-year schools. This is community colleges. About a third of the students are in community colleges. Military academies, so the Navy and the Air Force, faith-based institutions, and HBCUs. So we really want to make this something for everyone. This is not something, and we've been providing it until now as a free service because we didn't want to gate anybody from participating. In next year, we're going to charge a modest subscription fee because we have to cover our costs. But we don't want to. So if a single educator wants to get involved, they want to do this, we will always offer it free to single educators. But when you start to go campus wide, we need to actually start to charge a subscription fee, just so you understand how we operate. And then it'll be offered as it is today at a variety of our institutions for any faculty member to use in their class. So they could be a nutrition professor or nursing professor, as I said, or engineering or whatever. We would like to invite all students to participate.
I was going to ask about that, like where it's embedded in the student's curriculum, and is it a part of their experiential learning requirement? Is it a part of their cultural competence? Where do you find that most instructors incorporate the College Bowl?
Uh, that really varies, and you mentioned too. There's sometimes it's a professor who's actually teaching a course on political polarization, and it's an assignment that makes sense. Otherwise, the University of North Dakota, the president, Andy Armacost, made it available to all faculty, and they had to demonstrate a learning objective. And so a criminal justice instructor would want to say, this is what I want my students to know, and this is why I want them to do this. And so it's very, very easy. We make it super easy for faculty. They take 5 minutes to sign up their class. We make a custom toolkit. They get a landing page. We sort of create everything for them. And then students get pushed out a link. They sign up. They choose a time and a day, and they go. So it doesn't take any work for the faculty to do this. It's something that happens after hours for students. And then we turn around and we provide all the data on a dashboard
Mhm.
after.
So, can students participate more than once? And if so, do you track their responses to see if there's any uh, growth, I would say, or any change in significant perspective after having this exchange? You
Yeah.
think that something
That's a
really,
great question. Well, I will say right after they take the challenge, there's an assessment. And it's interesting you say again, 67%. And these are thousands of students. So this is an end of 6,000 from the last event. 67% say they wanted to do this again. They want more opportunities to talk about these topics on campus. 73% said it helped them see a new perspective. 73% said they're more likely to share their own point of view on campus or in class after taking the challenge. So we're seeing most people say they felt heard and not judged. And so they're having a positive experience. We did a longitudinal study, to your point. So we do know that sometimes these, in the work of Moore and Common and others who study this, that these intergroup or interactive contacts, these experiences, these interventions tend to have a decay factor of 1 week. We are seeing sustained impact at 8 weeks right now.
wow.
So we're seeing students say they're feeling more confident. I mean, confidence is an interesting thing to ask about. And this is all self-reported sentiment. We do have a double-blind study that's coming out from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, which we're really excited to see. Students who were provided the experience and students who did not take the experience, and we are measuring the difference. But for the students who took the experience, they're saying, I feel more confident in having respectful conversations across difference now. I feel like I can do this. And so we call this the civic gym. They're building civic muscles. And the more you practice and the more you do it, just like working out, the better you get at it.
So, Michelle, I have to say, this is compelling information. And I wonder, when we talk about the 8 week decay factor and students are really thinking about this for 8 weeks, we know that. Would this not be best implemented maybe at orientation? So now you're going into college and you're learning about your differences. You understand that there are other perspectives and you're not afraid to talk about them. I mean, to me, as a former college president, I think that would enhance the learning that the students are about to begin. It gives them perspective as they go into their new courses and they meet new people from different places. It just seems like a wonderful thing to do as an early intervention. Maybe not intervention, but as an early thing.
It's giving students habits and practice and skills that they need to be successful, not just successful students. So I think you're right, but also just successful citizens. We are
When is
also
this leave implemented? I should have asked you
so
that.
we yeah so the fall, so what's always tricky about intercollegiate is managing everyone's calendars, because they're all very different around the country. But it's traditionally the last week of September, the first week of October. That's the fall bowl. And then there is a spring bowl, and spring is the end of February, beginning of March. And then we do summer for those schools that have summer courses. So it's always a smaller crowd in the summer. Fall is huge. I mean, and so to date, we've had 13,000 students take. It's actually 13 at this point now. 13,000 students, 206 universities in 40 states. And we're growing. So I agree. I think that this would be, I mean, so Weber State University is going to start rolling this out for the freshman experience. And we encourage other college presidents to get in touch with us to talk about doing this. Our goal is for every college student to have this kind of practice.
I love it. What is some of the feedback that you're receiving from the faculty? Like once students participate, you send them their data. Are you following up to see what their impressions are based on the exercise?
Yes, we love data. And we ask professors too, not only like, how did this go for you, but what can we do better? We really understand that we cannot add to any administrative burden on faculty. So we take on, as they say, we do the heavy lifting, and we make sure that this is very, very easy to implement. What we are now seeing is that they would like us to integrate into the learning management systems, so it fits into the workflow, and so that's something we're going to start to provide. This really, so they see attendance. Right now they can see who attends. If it's an assignment, we make sure that they have that information. And we also provide all the data afterwards, both qualitative and quantitative. We have high scores. I mean, 100% of the professors, 100% said they will recommend this to other colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how incorporating or embedding this into the LMS would be extremely helpful, especially with regards to administrative tasks. But then I wonder where in the academic journey this would fit best. And my opinion is at those freshman experiences, those first days. But if not, there are plenty of other opportunities to incorporate something like this that can be used on each campus to help improve dialogue.
Yeah, and we want to make it as flexible as possible, so it makes sense for departments and deans and provosts and others to roll it out in student life as would work for them in their event calendars. We're also rolling out a second experience. So if you think about it, if we say that, well, then, there's an impact that's sustained 6-8 weeks, we want to have a second experience at that point. So we just developed one called the Deep Dive, which is about one topic. And the first topic that we have, students we did a beta that was very successful this semester on gun ownership and gun safety and gun violence. And so students who are gun owners and students who have also been affected by gun violence are working one-on-one together to talk about scenarios and solutions and just gather each other's perspectives. And they really enjoy that because they get to dig in.
I mean, I love that. And I think the one topic focus, when you think about the healthcare disciplines and how much they would need to know about the interdisciplinary nature and the interprofessional nature of the other roles and how they complement one another, to help mitigate bad patient outcomes, just to be able to focus on the patient experience and understanding those differences. Something like this, I think, would be awesome in that respect.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're thinking before for like pre-med and for nursing students?
Absolutely. Here's the diversity of the patients. Here's how they'll present. Here's how they interpret their definition of health and wellness and what that means across cultures. And if you saw someone who said, I don't want a male practitioner, I prefer a female, how do you interpret that? Like, what do you think that means? How do you leverage this information to benefit the patient in their most compromised times?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we haven't thought about some discipline-specific scenarios, but as you just now opening my mind to this, there's so much extensibility.
Excuse me. So I have all kinds of questions here, and it's just like a candy store, and where we can pick from. But I think that the constructive dialogue that you're creating with the Challenge College Bowl is great for the students. So what kind of feedback are you receiving when the faculty participate?
Well,
Are
it's
they
funny that you
matched? And
say
I'm
that.
not sure if you are they
We
matched?
just we are going to be doing faculty. So we've had a lot of requests for a faculty bowl.
Mhm.
And so we are going to do one in November. We haven't set the date yet, but the Institute for Citizens and Scholars has asked us to create a faculty bowl. And so we will invite faculty to participate. And I think that's a great idea. Not they can see what students are actually experiencing that for themselves. And we invite all faculty to join. And once we have that date, I will let you know.
And I think that's so important because I think it's lost on many of us that depending on where you are trained regionally, your perspectives are different and how you practice and how you relate are different. Now, you may then get a job on the other side of the United States or someplace else that might be rural if you came from someplace that's urban, but where you were trained really tells a story um, relative to your values and how you practice.
Right.
So
And
I
also
think it's important
what
to
you're
have
seeing on
this.
campus, I mean, all the campus protests that we have seen this spring has been disproportionately challenging for campuses across this country.
Mhm.
And it would be fascinating to have faculty discuss, what campuses should and should not do to protect and encourage free expression, even when there are attacks on certain groups. And so there's really meaty subjects that I think that faculty can actually learn from one another. And we would love to provide the way to facilitate those conversations.
Well, teaching critical civic skills, I know, is the cornerstone of Unity America's approach. So, what specific skills do you focus on, and how do you ensure that they're effectively imparted into the participants?
So we are really big proponents of active listening skills. Conversation is half mouth, half ears. And we've learned from one of the nation's leading scholars on listening, Graham Bodie out of University of Mississippi. He has a great title of Chief Listening Officer of Listen First Project. And we developed a program called Sunday Night Listening. And it's a kind of a fun Jellyvision Jackbox idea of creating a game out of listening. And there's a kind of like a sportscaster who's the announcer of that. And so listening skills are really important. How do we not be a topper where someone says someone and somebody has to kind of respond by topping their story? How do we listen loudly? You listen loudly by having verbal cues. Tell me more. Say more about that. How do we not spin everything around so that it becomes about the talk, about person A and not person B? So we're teaching people how to listen, because if you don't know how to listen, it's a fundamental skill, right? And bridging divides and in disagreeing better. So that's one.
There's so much value that comes from this that I'm seeing that's just beyond um, the conversations in discourse. There's so much value in terms of even the listening. How do you listen? What are you thinking about when someone else is speaking? And
Mhm.
making sure that people know that listening is an intentional activity and not to be defensive or deflective. But you have to be reminded of that, Michelle. I think teaching that and making sure that the students or the participants understand that, because you forget that and you don't think about it. You're just in your position, you're ready to respond to it, you're ready to top or to defend. And I think it is a skill that students should learn early.
That's right. I mean, if you ask anybody in your life, do you think you're a good listener? We're all going to say yes. But since I've done this work, I have learned that I'm an okay listener.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, as you say, it's an intention, it's a practice. And I would say to anyone who's listening to this podcast right now, what you can practice this tonight with your family. Try to do something called hit the bullseye. And hitting the bullseye isn't just repeating what the person just said, but it's trying to listen for meaning, signposts of meaning. Why did they just say that to me? Why did they say that to me like that? And then you say, well, what I'm hearing you say is this. Let me tell you something. This is going to get into woo-woo category, but listening is an act of love.
Mhm. I totally agree with that. And, to your point, if you ask me, oh, Lori, are you a good listener? I'd say, yeah, but I'm probably not. And especially after the way you describe it, because I think you are supposed to be intentional in making sure that someone feels heard and that you understand them. But I think sometimes we get caught up in the words and not the meaning. I mean, you expressed that so eloquently, a few seconds ago, and look for the meaning in what's being communicated.
Right, right. And this goes for your interpersonal relationships with your partners and your family and your children and your colleagues. And if everyone can learn how to do this, and let me just give credit, Resetting the Table is a group out of California. And they are really also the leaders in this category. They train trainers to teach people these skills, and we learned from them, and we are forever grateful for their leadership. Resetting the Table.
Well, we're getting close to the end of time, and I have so many questions I didn't get to, but I do want to ask this.
Okay.
What's your vision for the future of Unify America? Are there any upcoming projects? You mentioned some things, but anything that might be something you want to discuss, expansions or anything that you're particularly excited about?
Yes, thank you for asking. And by the way, thank you so much for having me today. If you are listening and you know of a school, an administrator, faculty who would like to learn more about this program, please reach out to me at michelle@unifyamerica.org. We would love to welcome you to the participation pool. It is incredibly enriching. It is really easy to incorporate. And our goal would be to provide this kind of experience and experiences and skills to every college student in this country.
Well, I think every college in America, in this country, and even outside of our borders could benefit from something like this. And imagine when you take it internationally. And now we're talking about cross cultures. I mean, this is really significant, and I can see impactful. It will be extremely impactful. And thank you so much for joining me today, Michelle Sobel, the president of Unify America. Um, it's been awesome having you on today and learning about what you do. This is really interesting work, and I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
that I was able to have this discussion with you today.
Thank you. A pleasure to meet you too, Dr. Shanderson.
Well, there you have it, everyone. You've just been EdUped. You can listen to any of the podcasts on the EdUp Experience series by just checking us out online. And there's so much for you to pull from there. I mean, there's accreditation, there's Marcom, there's EdTech. There's just so many opportunities for you to learn more about higher education, and we encourage you to do so. So thank you again, and it's been my pleasure.